Our group number 10, comprising of Devendra Dhume, Paras Nangia, Rangoli Maheshwari, and me, Ritika Sachdeva, and for our analysis today, we've picked out the automobile industry. So let's start with a little bit of history about the automobile industry in India. Prior to independence, India was viewed as a market for just foreign vehicles, with GM and other few companies providing for the majority of vehicles. Manufacturing did not begin until a decade after achieving independence. That was so because Indian Railways played a very significant role in the 1950s, as it provided for India's most of the transportational needs. The Indian automobile industry experienced numerous roadblocks, of which one was the limited manufacturing capacity. For over 3 decades, the total passenger car production was capped just to 40,000 units per year, with just 3 dominant players involved in the actual manufacturing process. Further, there was no given or present expertise on any kind of manufacturing process, nor was there any research or development ongoing. Initially, the labor too was very unskilled, so most of the manufacturers had to resort to trial and error, which further added up to the obstacles faced by the Indian automobile industry. Coming to the current scenario, the Indian automobile sector is a major economic driver and accounts for half of country's manufacturing GDP, and in totality, it contributes 7.5% to the overall GDP. The value chain of the sector employs over 32 million people, and further, the production of two-wheelers in India has nearly tripled in the past decade, whereas the production of passenger cars and commercial vehicles has nearly doubled. Now moving to the road ahead, the future of the automobile industry in India. The automobile industry benefits a variety of variables, including low-cost trained labor, strong R&D centers, and low-cost steel production. The industry also offers excellent investment prospects as well as direct and indirect employment to skilled and unskilled labor, both. Also, it's predicted that by 2026, the Indian automobile sector will be worth $16 to $18 trillion. And after recovering from the ravages of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Indian automobile industry is predicted to rise rapidly in 2022. The electric cars has a very bright future in the automobile industry, and a study done by CEEW, Center of Energy Finance, recognized that $206 billion opportunity can be seen in electric vehicle industry within India by 2030. So moving on to the environmental analysis, as we've already discussed and observed that in the recent years, the Indian automobile industry has grown significantly. According to analysts, this boom is still happening, and if present development initiatives continue, the industry will easily surpass some of the already established industries in very many wealthy countries. There are a number of factors that have a significant impact on India's automobile industry, namely known as the pestle factors, which can be broken down into the following categories: political factors, economical factors, social factors, technological factors, environmental factors, and legal factors. Starting with political factors. Many investors have flocked to India's automobile industry. Despite the country's vast size, all of these are concentrated into 3 primary regions. This is because these locations are more developed than the other parts of the countries, and the government has a very important part to play in it, as they have funded the development that has happened in these areas. In terms of politics, Indian government has benefited the automobile sectors considerably. The government has established organizations to assist the automobile sector with research and development, and these organizations are also keeping a check and an eye on this automobile sector. Moving on to economical factors, India's economy has been growing with a rate of 6% on an average, with automobile industry accounting for 22% of the country's GDP. As a result, it is a significant source of revenue for the country. Because India has a large and growing middle class, this growth has rippled to produce much more consumers. This group of people has increasingly started to buy cars, and that can be seen by increase in the sales of cars in the last decade. Without economical growth, India's automobile industry would be unable to attract as many international investors as at present. It is therefore critical for the country to maintain this increasing trend, as it will impact on an overall country's industrial business. The prices of several essential goods has also had an impact on the automobile industry. The vehicle industry has always been affected by the crude and the petroleum product prices. Things get more expensive and the world market prices of these products rise, and this affects both the manufacturers and the maintainers of the automobile industry. Moving on to the social factors. Owing to the very large population of India, it has quickly become a center for automobile industries. For the maker, it creates a thriving market. Although in India we experience taste differences, manufacturers are always aware of the best-selling vehicles and creates designs accordingly. For example, in India, the preferred mode of vehicle is two-wheelers, and hence we've seen an increase in both the demand and production of two-wheelers. These vehicles have been developed by a number of automobile manufacturers keeping in the domestic use in mind. Moving on to technological factors. The automobile business has expanded as a result of a number of technological breakthroughs. Technology is not just being employed in the construction of the vehicle, but it is also helping the vehicle buyers save money. Even the government is assisting in research and development to ensure both the manufacturers and the consumers are satisfied with the vehicle sector and are then motivated to invest in it. Now let's discuss the environmental factors. Because more investors are deciding to develop environmental friendly vehicles, environmental considerations have influenced the automobile sector in India. Vehicles that use less fuel create fewer fumes are among them. Some investors have also chosen to produce electric vehicles in order to save energy and protect the environment. And finally, moving on to the legal factors. The rapid expansion of the Indian vehicle sector has been aided by legal issues. This is due to the fact that the industry is highly encouraged with investors receiving a 100% FDI pass. Investors that ship automobile to other nations from their manufacturing bases situated within India are also exempt from paying taxes. And the Indian government has encouraged several automobile businesses to set up shops in the country by reducing regulatory constraints impacting the industry in a very positive manner.
We'll now be discussing the industry analysis of the Indian automobile industry. So the auto sector in India maintains a high-flying position in the economy. The automobile industry has a powerful multiplier impact and has the potential to generate economic growth. The industry expertly fulfills the role by producing a wide range of vehicles, including passenger cars, light, medium, and heavy commercial vehicles, as well as multi-utility vehicles such as jeeps, scooters, motorcycles, mopeds, three-wheelers, tractors, and so on. The vehicle manufacturing business is regarded as a high capital and high labor-intensive industry. The key costs associated with producing and selling automobiles are from labor and advertising. Although automakers are assumed to make up the majority of the industry, auto parts are also a valuable segment. The primary fields of car component manufacturing are the OEMs, that is the original equipment manufacturers. So the major automakers make some of their own parts, but they can't make every element and component that goes into a car. Everything from door handles to chairs is made by companies in this industry. The next is production and distribution of replacement components. Now, these are the parts that are replaced after a vehicle is purchased. This sector's products include air filters, oil filters, and replacement lights, to name a few. The third category is rubber fabrication. This comprises tires, hoses, belts, and other rubber products. We'll now talk about the major car manufacturers in India. So Maruti Udyog, Hyundai Motors, Honda, Toyota, and Hindustan Motors are some of the major car manufacturers. Honda Motorcycle and Scooter India Private Limited, TVS, Hero Honda, Yamaha, Bajaj, and others are two-wheeler manufacturers in India. Tata Telco, Bajaj, Mahindra and Mahindra, and others make large vehicles such as buses, lorries, auto rickshaws, and multi-utility vehicles. Moving on to the market statistics. India is Asia's largest automobile market and is world's largest two-wheeler manufacturer. It is the world's fifth largest maker of commercial vehicles. In the following years, India's motorbike market would expand by 8 to 9%, and a similar growth is expected in the passenger car segment. The commercial vehicle market is expected to expand by 5.2%. Market share of car makers can be seen in the graph here. Next, we also have this graph which depicts the sales of automobiles in India from 2011 to 2021 by the type of vehicles. We'll now move on to Porter's 5 forces analysis on automobile industry. The first point being barriers to entry. So the advent of foreign competitors with the necessary finance, technologies, and management skills began to erode several automobile companies' market dominance. Globalization, or the movement of global investment and firms from national and domestic markets to a global environment, is a major influence on the auto market industry. Foreign automakers are finding it easier than ever to penetrate the domestic market. Also, the Indian government is supporting them. Automobiles are strongly reliant on customer preferences and trends and require high capital investment. Therefore, the average person can't just come along and start manufacturing automobiles. Moving to the second point, which is threat of substitutes. Now, instead of just focusing on the threat of someone purchasing a new vehicle, it is necessary to consider the possibility of individuals traveling by bus, train, or airline. People are more likely to seek alternate transportation options. So, in the vehicle travel sector, time, money, personal preference, and convenience all play an important role in assessing whether substitutes are available, and then assess whether one automobile manufacturer poses a significant danger as a replacement. Moving to the third point, that is the competitive rivalry. The auto business is classified as an oligopoly. So an oligopoly is basically a market condition in which there are so few suppliers that the actions of any one of them can have a significant impact on pricing, which serves to reduce the effect of price-based competition. Now, because automakers recognize that price-based competition does not always result in increased market growth, they have generally avoided price-based rivalry. However, competition recently increased due to discounts, preferred for financing, and long-term warranties have all helped to attract customers, but they have also put pressure on vehicle profit margins. Moving to the fourth point, that is bargaining power of suppliers. Now, the car product parts industry is extremely fragmented. The majority of vendor products are brought from one or two automakers. Switching suppliers by an automaker could be disastrous for the former supplier's business. As a result, suppliers are tremendously vulnerable to the needs and requirements of the automaker, and they have very little control. The lifespan of a vehicle is critical for component suppliers. The greater the need for replacement parts, the longer a car remains operational. New parts, on the other hand, are lasting longer, which is fantastic for customers, but bad news for manufacturers. The last point being bargaining power of buyers. Now, the automakers' bargaining power is unrivaled. Consumers may become dissatisfied with many of the items offered by specific automakers and seek alternatives, such as foreign automobiles. But consumers, on the other hand, are price sensitive but lack purchasing power because they rarely buy large quantities of cars. So, coming to a conclusion, Indian automobile industry has achieved splendid achievements in the recent years. The attractiveness of the Indian markets on one hand, and stagnation of the auto sector in markets such as Europe, US, and Japan on the other hand, have resulted in shifting of new capacities and flow of capital to the Indian automobile industry. India is a significant manufacturer of automobiles and auto parts. Global automakers such as Japanese automaker Suzuki, Honda, and Korean car giant Hyundai are increasingly banking on their Indian operations to add weight to their businesses.
Let's look at the journey of Maruti now. Maruti Limited was incorporated under the Companies Act with Sanjay Gandhi as its first managing director in 1981. In 1982, Maruti entered into a collaboration with Suzuki. Suzuki acquired 26% stake in the company. The same year, company also set up a manufacturing unit at Gurgaon, Haryana and launched Maruti 800 in its subsequent year. In 1986, Maruti achieved a milestone. 1 lakh car rolled out of the factory. Within 2 years, Maruti Suzuki was dominating the market. In 1987, the company exported 500 cars to Hungary, thus commencing the sales outside India via export. With the liberalization of economy in 1991, many foreign players such as GM, Ford, Daewoo, and Honda entered the market. It benefited Suzuki, and Suzuki increased its stake in the company by 50%. Maruti was no longer a public sector undertaking, but an Indian company which ran on Japanese principles. In 1998, company launched its first diesel car, the Zen D. 2000s was a time of turbulence for the Maruti. Multiple labor unrest took place at its Gurgaon plant. The company changed its HR strategy and also opened a new factory in Manesa. In 2004, Alto took over Maruti to become India's highest selling car. In 2015, new exclusive automotive experience or the Nexa platform was introduced by the company to launch premium cars in Indian market. The first car to be sold through this channel was the S-Cross. By 2020, the Indian government had introduced new emission norms, the Bharat Stage 6 norms. This led Maruti Suzuki to discontinue its diesel cars. Now, this was the Maruti journey. But how did Maruti become so successful? So, what led to its success? So, some of the core competencies of Maruti's which led to its success were the first thing any Indian would ask about automobiles was kitna mileage deti hai. So Maruti has over the year built fuel efficient cars, which is one of its core capability. Another is Maruti Suzuki has strong dealer network spanning across 450 cities and a huge service network of 3,000 franchises of service outlets. Such network helps the company to be in touch with the customer and also gives it bargaining power over the supplier. Also, the first mover advantage gave the company the chance to understand the market better and builds its brand over time. So what strategies Maruti followed? So Maruti is a cost leader in the market and it has consistently followed the cost leadership strategy. Over the period, it has increased its operational efficiency, increased production and quality, and improved technology, which resulted in economies of scale. And thus it maintained the cost leadership strategy. The cost leadership strategy helped Maruti target a broader audience and it entered into all the car segments of the market, due to which it captured a larger market share than its competitors. Now, this was the Maruti story. Let's have a look at the Tata story.
Now let's talk about Tata Motors. Tata Motors' passenger vehicle business was falling off the cliff. By 2016, it was clear that the business needed some serious help. Though the problems were identified way back in 2012, but it had bigger battles to fight. Tata Motors had to protect its turf in medium and heavy trucks, which was bread and butter for the company, from competitors such as Mercedes-Benz and Volvo. The main competition was in light trucks, in where the market share of Tata Motors plunged from 59% in 2012 to just 39% in 2020. And the winner was not an MNC, but Mahindra and Mahindra with its Bolero eating into the market. Now let's see how the turnaround happened for Tata Motors. Guenter Boucher, who was responsible for the turnaround at Airbus and Daimler, took charge of Tata Motors in 2016. After spending 1 year, he gave two strategic steps. First, structural improvement and complexity reduction, which would be done by a modular platform approach. And second, to build a strategic supplier base. In the passenger vehicles, the aim was to improve brand perception and launch fresh products to back it up. A full production plan for the next 5 years till 2022 was laid out to get the full benefit of modular platforms and structural cost reductions. Now let's look at the first strategical approach which Tata Motors called as the magic of sharing. While free cash flow may result in the jump of EBITDA, Tata Motors aim to get better capital efficiency. To that effect, the company is planning to reduce the investment intensity from 20.2% of sales, which was between 2018 and 2020, to 5 to 6% in the long term. It is cutting down the building blocks that make a vehicle and using the same block in as many vehicles as possible. It aims to simplify the complexity in car making by bringing in standardized approaches and commonality in vehicles. In automotive industry, it is known as platform sharing strategy. Tata Motors has two prominent platforms, Alpha and Omega. Omega is derived from the Land Rover's D8 platforms and is used for bigger vehicles of 4.3 to 4.8 meter length, while the Alpha model is used for the smaller length vehicles, which forms the bulk of the market. Tata Motors has developed the Alpha platform, which can make a hatchback, a sedan, or an SUV. From 10 products based on 6 different platforms in 2017, the company aims to have 8 to 10 different models based on just the two of these platforms. The architectural strategy allows a car maker to develop multiple products in a short span of time. This helps a company keep the product portfolio fresh which is an important factor in a big and competitive market like India. Keeping the base of the car or the rolling chassis common to different top hats is key part of Tata Motors platform strategy. Currently, only 3 of the 6 cars making 40% of the volumes are currently built on new platforms, and the benefits will accrue going forward. For example, the Altroz was the first vehicle made on the Alpha platform. It will be followed by small SUV such as Hornbill and the next generation of Tiago, Tigor and Nexon. This means fewer parts for the company to manage, fewer design changes to make for new models launches or refreshes, more volumes per tool and die for the supplier, resulting in Tata Motors getting better deals from them. Simply put, in 3 years, 70% of the part of cars on the Alpha platform will be same and having a monthly production of 20,000 units. Having a platform strategy in place will make Tata Motors more agile, nimble, and address market needs. The platform strategy is an important element that can help the company gain stronger market position going forward and minimize supply chain challenges at the same time. Coming to the second strategy followed by Tata Motors, which was to reorganize its supply chain. This was done by the engineering team in collaboration with the analytics and the finance department. Between 2017 and 2020, the number of suppliers was reduced by 65%. Tata Motors enlisted the help of its tier 1 suppliers to develop the entire system and oversee quality. Top automotive suppliers gained a bigger proportion of Tata Motors revenue as a result of the new supply chain strategy, and faulty parts per million were reduced drastically. Warranty expenses decreased from 1.14% in 2016 to 0.9% in 2021. Now let's look at some areas where Tata Motors provide exclusivity. The first one being safety. The Tata Nexon was the country's first vehicle to get a 5-star certification from GA NCAP. The Tata Eltros was the first premium hatchback to get a 5-star certification for safety. Even the Tiago and Tigor, two tiny vehicles in a category where safety is sometimes overlooked, received 4-star rating. Coming to the electric vehicle industry. Tata Motors wants to become the country's leader in the EV industry by introducing innovative products such as Tata Nexon for the personal customers after introducing Tata Tigor for the fleet customers. Also, as a part of aspirations to be a comprehensive participant in the EV sector, the automaker wants to develop entire in-house capabilities in terms of supply chain, design, and even full local production.